Today we're going to be looking at carriers. We've been using this term familiarity in class, but now we're just going to add a textbook definition to it. Remember, we need to start looking at the organism's genotype. Even though the phenotype may say they appear normal on the outside, you are unable to tell their genotype. Let's dive into what a carrier is. Lethal traits. What is a lethal trait? A lethal trait is a recessive trait that causes severe disabilities in organisms. Sometimes can lead to death. In organisms, all the chromosomes and traits that you have are located within your DNA. Most of the time, they end up creating you with somewhat normal or healthy traits. However, sometimes malfunctions can happen within the chromosomes and can lead to death or severe disabilities. Always recessive. A person who shows the lethal trait is usually sterile. A person with a debilitating trait is usually ending up being sterile. In other words, they cannot pass on their genes. Because of this, more often than not, all lethal traits or debilitating traits are going to be recessive. How does someone get a lethal trait? Both parents must be carriers. A carrier is a person who is heterozygous for a trait. Example, big A, little a. A is the normal gene, and little a equals the damaged gene. We've talked about this before, but remember, carriers may look normal on the outside, but because of their genotypes, they may carry the damaged gene or allele, and it is easy to, and there is a % chance of having a defunct embryo. There's no such thing as a lethal dominant trait. If there was a lethal dominant trait, the fetus would be aborted before anything was to happen. Therefore, over time, the trait would cease to exist. Hence, why there's no such thing as a lethal dominant trait. All are always recessive. Examples of lethal traits in humans. Cre du chat, a cat-like calling and mental damages. Cre du chat is due to damage on the 5th chromosome. It can lead to typically larger eyes, as well as some sort of debilitating bone structure. It is best well known for what is called cry of the cat, or a cat-like cry. PKU, unable to break down phenylalanine and creates a buildup in the brain. Phenylalanine is a common food item. A PKU baby is unable to digest phenylalanine and it ends up being stored in the brain, causing severe damage. There are many other diseases that can be considered to be genetically debilitating. By looking up in Wikipedia, you can actually find a whole list of genetic diseases within humans. Ask your parents and see if there are any traits from within your family that may lead you to think that you may be a carrier for these traits. Anyway, have a good evening.